The Galactic Council had made it abundantly clear. Humans were to be handled with extreme caution. They were unpredictable, emotionally volatile, and possessed an unsettling tendency to bond with literally anything that moved. Aurora had heard all the warnings during her assignment to the Deep Space Research Station orbiting Kelta Prime. But she dismissed most of them as xenophobic nonsense. Now, standing face to face with 3 Velcarian cubs in the station's cargo bay, she was beginning to understand why the galaxy found her species so perplexing. The Velcarians were apex predators from a death world that made Earth look like a pleasant vacation resort, 8 feet tall when fully grown, covered in midnight black scales that could deflect most energy weapons, and possessing rows of serrated teeth designed to tear through reinforced hull plating. Their reputation preceded them across 17 star systems. These 3 cubs, barely adolescents at 5 feet tall, had somehow escaped from the xenobiology wing. Station security was in chaos. Evacuation protocols were being debated, and Orpheus, her research partner, was frantically trying to contact their supervisor from the safety of a sealed laboratory 2 levels above. Aurora had simply walked into the cargo bay to retrieve some equipment. The cubs spotted her immediately. Their crystalline eyes, 6 per head arranged in a circular pattern, focused on her with predatory intensity. The lead cub, slightly larger than its siblings, lowered its massive head and released a deep guttural sound that vibrated through the metal floor. It was a threat display Aurora had read about in the xenobiology briefs, a warning that preceded an attack. The sound was meant to trigger primal terror in prey species. It had been known to cause cardiac arrest in smaller beings. Aurora looked at the 3 cubs, their scales bristling, their clawed feet scraping against the deck plating, and she did something that no Velcarian had ever witnessed in such a situation. She laughed, not a nervous titter or a panicked giggle, but a full, genuine laugh that echoed through the cargo bay, the kind of laugh that came from deep in the belly, the kind that made her eyes water and her shoulders shake. The cubs froze. Their threat display faltered. 6 eyes per cub, 18 in total, blinked in synchronized confusion. The lead cub tilted its head at an angle that suggested its neural processors were experiencing a critical error. "Oh my God," Aurora wheezed, wiping her eyes. "You guys are adorable. You're trying so hard." She pulled out her personal datapad and snapped a photo. The flash startled the cubs, who took an involuntary step backward. "Orpheus is going to lose his mind when he sees this," she muttered, already composing the message. "Look at you. You're like angry puppies. Deadly scaled, terrifying puppies, but puppies nonetheless." The middle cub attempted another threat display, rising up on its hind legs to appear larger. Aurora applauded. "Yes, good form, very intimidating. 10 out of 10. She actually started clapping. The cubs exchanged glances with each other, a behavior xenobiologists had only recently confirmed as communication. They seemed to be having a silent conversation about what exactly was wrong with this bizarre soft-skinned biped. Okay, Aurora said, composing herself. She sat down cross-legged on the cargo bay floor, making herself smaller and less threatening. "Let me explain something to you 3. On Earth, that's my home planet, we have these creatures called bears. Massive predators could tear a human apart without breaking a sweat. And you know what we do when we see bear cubs?" She pulled up an image on her datapad and held it out. The cubs, curiosity overriding caution, crept closer. "We go, oh," Aurora demonstrated, her voice shifting to that particular pitch humans reserved for cute things. "Because even though we know they're dangerous, even though we know Mama Bear is probably nearby and will absolutely murder us, we can't help it. They're just so fluffy." The lead cub was now close enough that Aurora could have reached out and touched it. Its scales reflected the cargo bay's harsh lighting and rainbow patterns. "You're not fluffy," she continued conversationally. "You're scaled and terrifying and could probably bite through my arm like it's a breadstick. But you're also babies. You're lost, probably scared, definitely hungry, and trying to act tough because that's what you think you're supposed to do." She slowly extended her hand, palm up in a gesture that was universal among Earth's predators. Non-threatening, offering peace. The lead cub sniffed her hand. Its nostrils flared, processing the complex cocktail of chemicals that made up human scent. Then, in a movement that would later be analyzed by xenobiologists across the galaxy, it gently pressed its scaled head against Aurora's palm. "There we go," she whispered. Not so scary now, are we? The cargo bay doors suddenly burst open. Station security poured in, weapons drawn, ready to find a gruesome scene. Instead, they found Aurora sitting on the floor, surrounded by 3 Valkyrian cubs that were now competing for her attention like oversized puppies. Orpheus appeared in the doorway, his forearms laden with tranquilizer equipment that was now entirely unnecessary. His chitinous faceplates clicked together in his species equivalent of stunned disbelief. Aurora, he said slowly, his translator struggling to convey his incredulity. You were supposed to wait for containment protocols. They're babies, Orpheus, Aurora replied, scratching under the lead cub's jaw in a spot that made its rear leg kick involuntarily. They just needed someone to not be afraid of them. Not be afraid? The security chief, a Talarian with battle scars crossing his exoskeleton, lowered his weapon. They're Valkyrians. They're bred for war. Their cubs have killed trained soldiers. Aurora looked up at him with that particularly human expression that the galaxy had learned to recognize, the expression that said she was about to explain something obvious that everyone else had somehow missed. That's the thing about humans, she said, now with all 3 cubs pressing against her, rumbling contentedly in a way that adult Valkyrians never did. We evolved alongside apex predators. We became apex predators, and somewhere along the way we developed this really weird trait where we look at something that could kill us and think, but what if we could be friends instead? She stood up, the cubs following her like imprinted ducklings. Come on, guys. Let's get you back to your enclosure, and maybe get you some snacks. You're probably starving. As she led the procession of cubs out of the cargo bay, Orpheus turned to the security chief. This, he said quietly, is why the council finds them terrifying. Because they're fearless? The chief asked. No, Orpheus corrected, watching Aurora pause to take another photo with the cubs. Because they're fearless and they think everything is adorable. It's the most dangerous combination in the galaxy. Behind them, Aurora's laughter echoed through the corridor as one of the cubs tried to eat her datapad. The galaxy would never quite understand humans, but the Valkyrians at least were starting to learn that sometimes the scariest thing in the universe wasn't fangs or claws or scales. It was a human who looked at all of that and smiled.